Hi, this is James Archer, Managing Director of 40, and I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about a book that can turn your business around. It's not a book you can buy at the store, though. It's way better than that. Let's start with some of the most common marketing issues faced by businesses. The first is simply jumping into tactics before developing a solid strategy. Tactics are short-term solutions, and they only generate real results in the context of a larger plan. The second is having a brand that's fuzzy, vague, and difficult to explain. This is usually an internal problem, with different people in your company having different ideas about what the company stands for. This often leads to disconnected messages and design, where each piece is made up on the fly based on the opinions of whoever's in charge of it, rather than being based on some kind of common framework. This in turn usually leads to increasingly haphazard deliverables, with each one being based loosely on the last, causing the whole thing to drift away from the original ideas over time. And eventually, this big mess leads to poor results from your marketing efforts. It might be working a little, but it's definitely not accomplishing what it could be. Your marketing efforts are a tree. The visible part is what gets seen by the public, your website, social media, advertising, and so on. What keeps it standing, though, are the roots of your brand. Your principles, your values, your personality, your concept. All of these define what your company is about and keep it standing strong. Your business instincts probably tell you to start with the visible parts. You want quick results. You want to start running an ad this week or get the website up right away. But jumping into these projects before your brand is really defined is like having a tree with no roots. No matter how good it looks, no matter how appealing the fruit, it falls over. Fortunately, there are effective solutions to these problems. Over the years, we've refined and combined different pieces of the solution together into a single resource we now provide for our clients. It's called a Brand Handbook, and our clients have described it as being useful not only for marketing purposes, but also as being deeply influential in their overall business. More than one has said that they didn't really understand who they were until going through this process. A brand handbook creates a foundation for building your brand in the future. It puts strategy before tactics, ensuring that your marketing efforts are moving your company toward a long-term objective. It keeps messaging and design work consistent, providing the compass that prevents marketing materials from gradually wandering off course over time. It makes it easy to explain your brand, both internally and externally. Think about the difference it could make if you could just hand someone a book and say, "This is who we are." And going back to the tree metaphor, the brand handbook is what keeps that darn tree from falling over. Now let's talk a little bit about how the brand handbook actually works. After researching your brand, we begin by analyzing, brainstorming, and identifying the conceptual strategy behind your brand. This is the single big idea that holds everything else together. Based on the conceptual strategy, we then develop specific verbal and visual strategies that reinforce and convey it. Together, this structure gives your brand a strong, memorable, and distinctive form. Let's start by talking about the conceptual strategy. After we conduct research and interviews, the first and most complicated part of the process is to identify the underlying concepts behind the brand. These take different forms depending on the nature of the business, but it's always related to the psychology of your customer and how best we can help them understand and appreciate your brand. In its most powerful form, the conceptual strategy can be summarized in a brand metaphor that provides a simple and memorable way to remember key elements of the big idea behind the brand. Brand metaphors have become an important part of our process over the years, and developing these metaphors is a key part of 40's expertise. Once the conceptual strategy has been identified and agreed upon, we move on to developing the verbal strategy behind the brand. We start with a high-level view that describes the general emphasis and tone of any copywriting associated with your company. We then move on to specifics about style, tone, and mood, and usually provide lists of specific keywords and phrases that represent and reinforce your brand. We also explore the different decision modes that your target audience will be using, and provide specific persuasion strategies that help you to appeal to customers who may think differently than you do. At the same time we're working on the verbal strategy, we also begin the process of planning a visual strategy that complements it and provides a unique and memorable look for your brand. We consider the visual strategy of the brand from all angles, thinking about typography, textures, color schemes, symbols, and the psychological and cultural connotations that define how they'll be understood by your target audience. 40's job is to go beyond just nice design work, to create something that provides cultural relevance and helps people understand key elements of a brand within seconds. For most of our clients, the visual strategy represents the first time they've seen what their brand should have looked like all along, and it's one of the most exciting parts of the whole process. The finished hardcover books come to about 20 or 30 pages. Once you actually hold a crystal clear definition of your company's brand in your hands, it'll be difficult to understand why you didn't do this years ago. That is a quick preview of 40's brand handbooks. If you're curious to learn more, visit our website at 40agency.com or email us at info@40agency.com. We'd love to answer any questions you might have.